All right, we're back. We're going to hit this again. This last week was the video that I did, Chicago Bears roster looking forward. This was more on the free agent decisions we're going to have, the restricted free agents, the ERFA free agents, how that's going to look moving forward. This was really part 2 of that, all meant to be one big video, but it ended up being like an hour by the time I could get through all of it because I like to break things down on this channel. Those who have been watching for a while, you know I like the nerdy analytical stuff. I like to dissect the free agent, the roster, even the salary cap coming up. So today's decisions are going to be based off of those contracts that are ended, how that works at a league minimum, where the ones moving forward are that roll into next year, and where we have options with the salary cap. So this is really part 2 to that, but the first part was like 20 minutes. This one would be another 25, 30 minutes. So it ends up, I needed to compress them into 2 videos. So part 2, thanks for tuning in. Those who didn't see part 1, I will link that in the description. You can go back and look at that because both these combined will give you really a comprehensive knowledge on where the Bears roster stands, where the salary cap moving forward goes, and what decisions Ryan Poles or Ian Cunningham or whoever and company have to make. So from last week, I did show this on the video, the salary cap. Right now, the Bears, I use my little pointer, my little logo as a pointer. The Bears sit at $81 million next year, pending it being set at $273.3 million for the salary cap next year. That will get cleared up early into the next offseason. The Bears do have $5.7 million left in salary cap from last year. If it's unused, it rolls forward to next year. So that either way, it's not going to change their positioning. They're going to be right here in the 5th spot with salary cap. But these guys at the top have a ton of space to use. There's going to be some attractive free agents out there, and these guys will be the front runners to be able to go and spend a big bag of cash at them for sure. Okay, so the same as last week, I'm going to show these are your free agents. So the free agents haven't changed. Are the ones that stay on the roster. These are free agent spots that are gone, and you can see that right here. Coleman Shelton, free agent. Larry Borum, Tevin Jenkins, Matt Pryor, Jake Curhan. And I explained last week, Doug Kramer and Bill Murray are ERFA. Basically means they don't have enough service time. The team can sign them to a league minimum contract. They're restricted to their team. So the Bears will most likely do that with both of these guys, I would suspect. What I've included here in the orange, these box, you'll see as we go along, it's going to be consistent through the whole video for each section we go through. In the orange here, these are rookies on their rookie contract. There's no reason to think anything's going to change on these ones. The Bears will let these rookies roll through their rookie contract unless they were absolutely terrible. Like Darnell Wright would be a similar situation to Alex Leatherwood. If Alex Leatherwood was terrible, the team would take that huge cap hit to cut him. But Darnell Wright's not terrible. He's actually playing extremely well. One of the Bears' offensive linemen, top-rated offensive linemen in the last couple of weeks. So Darnell Wright, no problem. Unless they're playing terrible, the Bears aren't going to cut these rookie contracts. You're working to develop them, see if you can get a superstar in the making out of them. We're going to go into players like Matt Pryor and the league minimum and how much it would cost to re-sign them because Matt Pryor is playing very, very, very well for a backup guard that's starting. I mean, I think he's around 20th best guard in the entire league this year. So that's really good. That's really good for a backup. We'd want to retain him. What's the league minimum? Probably have to pay more than a league minimum. But for reference, we'll move me just slightly out of the way here. You can see this is the collective bargaining agreement for the league. This is stuff that some people like to know. For 2020 through 2030, the most recent collectively bargained, I've highlighted this year and next year, and I've kind of popped them out a little bit. You can see for service time, so Matt Pryor has 6 years in the league now. He would be at $1.125 million on his collectively bargained league minimum. And Doug Kramer and Bill Murray only got $915,000 last year. And if you look up here, 1 year service time, that's their league minimum. That's how much they received. But why did Matt Pryor at 1.125 only receive $1.035 million? Well, we have to break down the salary cap, break down the individual player's cap to be able to understand why they're only reporting a certain amount in a certain way. So here's Matt Pryor, and then here's Ryan Bates right below him. Let me show both of these real quick. So there's Matt Pryor. Here's Ryan Bates. So Matt Pryor up top. Here's the $1.17 million when you break open his salary cap. But he needed to get at least $1.125. Well, the $1.175 was eaten up a little bit in signing bonus and guarantees. So they can pay a little bit of cash. They can structure contracts different with vets to be able to make them appear on the books a little bit different. So they did that. They had a signing bonus and they had a guaranteed at signing. So only $1.035 goes on the books. But he had his base salary of $1.125 per the collectively bargained agreement. Then if we go over to Ryan Bates, another one on the offensive line that's coming up. Let me move me up here. So Ryan Bates, this is from Spotrac, for those who don't know where we pull a lot of the salary cap information out of. Here's Ryan Bates, and I'll show moving into next year, because these are the contracts we really want to look at. We've explained these orange boxes are the rookies. They're not going to change much. All these blue ones are the free agents. We'll have to see what happens. Look at players like Matt Pryor, who we really want to bring back. Doug Kramer, Bill Murray, we really want to bring them back. They're on a league minimum now. You can probably get other players at league minimum as well, but probably not Matt Pryor. Doug Kramer and Bill Murray, we absolutely will because they're ERFA, but Matt Pryor may have to, we might have to pay them more of a Ryan Bates type of contract. So as we're getting into these contracts and we look at Ryan Bates, I know this is really small for some of you on the screen. I apologize. I'll do my best to explain it. You remember we traded a 5th-round pick to get Ryan Bates last year. A lot of speculation on him. A lot of Bears fans thought he was coming to be the center of the future, the franchise saver, all this and that. And you see he had a 4-year, $17 million contract with the Bills. We traded for him, so his contract stayed in cap. We just took it over. $4 million cap hit this year and $4 million next year. Well, we have to break down that $4 million because Ryan Bates, the best ability is availability. And maybe we don't like how injured he's been all year. I mean, he's had thing after thing this year, and now concussion rolling into this week again. And I realize that's not all the player's fault, but it's not just the concussion. It's multiple injuries. And in fact, Ryan Bates' shoulder almost led him to retire before the Bears traded for him. And he's had the same shoulder injury this year. And, there's a lot of things he's done for it. He flew out of country for treatment even to be able to try to take care of it. It's not working. So maybe the Bears say that $4 million can be better allocated elsewhere. Well, how much do we save if we cut him and just cut bait with this? And it has cut bait, Ryan Bates. if we cut him away. And you look up here, the pre-6-1 rates, there's certain dates here to keep in mind. And unless they're structured in the contract, those dates are pretty firm. The 3/14, that's the new league year. Okay, so if we trade him or release him before that date, our cap hit is 0. So he doesn't have any guaranteed money left on his cap or on his salary cap. So we would save $4 million. If we wait till the new league year, because he gets guaranteed money, a roster bonus as the league rolls over of $500,000, then we'll burn $500,000 and we'll save 3.5. So that will be a decision we'll have to make. Unless we don't care about $500,000, kind of crazy to think how all of us in the real world need $500,000 like we need a drink of water in the desert. But these guys, that $500,000, they can eat that on their salary cap because the salary cap is so huge. So clearly something the Bears will have to consider. We look at his, let me move me out of here. Here's this year. He's only played in game 1, game 10, and game 11. Other than that, he's had concussion, shoulder, even ankle back in 2022. And then here's the headline. I just pulled it up so you guys can see it. Bears $17 million, 27-year-old, nearly had to retire this season per report. So, and then here's, not a bad prospect. You love the prospect of Ryan Bates. Here's his career over here on the left. With us, a down year again, but last year, so good in only 33 opportunities. So anybody can have a peek. And so the Bears took a shot. They traded for him, see what we can get, see what we can develop. And he's kind of regressed back to his mean that he normally was, but a lot of potential. But those injuries are so hampering. Is it worth keeping him for $4 million on the roster? I personally don't think so. I would cut bait with Ryan Bates, sign a free agent. There's other players in this league. He's not the only player. And then I would draft as well a guard in the upcoming draft. So that's how it's going to look when we roll through this. So I'll just roll through them a little quicker now that we've established it. These lower contracts, remember, those were the practice squad members. So there's options to bring them back as well. The boxes here on our running backs and quarterbacks room, they're all rookie contracts except DeAndre Swift. So we'll just hit DeAndre Swift's contract real quick. And for DeAndre Swift, it's a mixed bag of results. And I know a lot of fans feel that same way. We needed a power back. We've got a finesse back. Right now, he's 47th out of 57th ranked running back in the league. So he's definitely not a force that everyone's scared of. There's things that you can do to contain him. We've used Roschon Johnson a lot different as well. But his contract went from 2024 to 2026. And usually in the second year of a 3-year contract, you're not going to get good value by cutting someone. You'd have to trade them. So right here in the 2025 release or trade, you can see our dead cap would be 8.776 million out of the 9.3 million on his contract. It's not advantageous to be able to get rid of DeAndre Swift. I don't think that's in the card anyways. I'm just explaining when they look at these things. If you really didn't like DeAndre Swift, it doesn't make sense to get rid of him. You're more trying to pull out the good in him from the Lions and Philadelphia and see what we can do to change our scheming to make it work for him than you are to cut him, because you have negative salary cap when you are cutting him. And if you hold on to him, you're even more dead cap. But what you can do is look forward to it. If it doesn't work in 2025, if we cut him in 2026, you can see here what is owed remaining in 2026. His last year of his contract is $8.83 million. So $1.3 million would be dead cap. If we cut him, we would lose 1.13, but we would save $7.5 million if we cut him next year. So that's things to look forward to. Is, you know, if it doesn't work out this year, that's something we can allocate to next year and say, okay, $1.3 million is not that much to. Man, it's crazy saying that. $1.3 million is not that much to cut for our dead cap moving forward with how big the salary cap is. Okay, so for receivers and tight ends, I've bulleted the ones that are worth looking at here. You see, these are huge contracts. This is new. The orange circle means it's contracts we just extended. There's no point in even looking at them because that would kill the salary cap. And they're players, you just extended them. You want to keep them anyway. So Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, huge extensions, long extensions. So we're not looking at those. Again, the squares are your rookie contracts, and then the blue ones, we're not focusing on Keenan Allen today. That was the other video. These are your free agents. These are your practice squad players. And then here is your restricted free agent as well. And there's options. If those who don't remember, I'll just quickly hit the restricted free agent. If somebody offers Steven Carlson a contract, the Bears have the option to match that contract before we let him walk out the door. But for this one, the one that doesn't fit all those parameters is Gerald Everett, was just signed last year. We need to look, just like DeAndre Swift, look at his contract and see if it's worth the Bears hanging on to or moving on from. And when we pull up Gerald Everett from Spotrac and look at his contract and break it down, this year we look up here first with the Chargers, Seattle, the Rams. You look, he had a couple really good years here. But you look here at this year, and he's not having it. In fact, he's having his worst year of his entire career. His pass blocking has gotten better as he's developed in the league. That's normal, and it should be that way, that these guys continue to develop and pass block. But his offensive grades, his receiving grades, they're terrible. In fact, overall offensive grade, he's the 68th out of 70th ranked tight end in the league this year, and he's our tight end too. So to me, that's very frustrating. Well, that's a big contract we're paying to him, $6.5 million next year that we have to pay for him. Well, the dead cap's only $1 million. So if we decide, well, we tried this experiment, it's not working out. He's 31 years old this next year. We can allocate $5.5 million to another tight end, another quality backup tight end. This one to me is a no-brainer out of all no-brainers. The Bears should cut bait with Gerald Everett. They should move on from him, and they should save that $5.5 million. It's only going to cost them $1 million in dead cap. I know we don't like any dead cap, but the Bears are in the very best position out of any team in the league after Ryan Poles has taken over and cleaned up our dead cap. We don't have much dead cap at all. So it's okay if we take $1 million, $2 million, even if a contract is terrible, $10 million, $15 million, to be able to get the roster right. So I am completely in favor of cutting Gerald Everett next year. And this is the business side. Again, I don't know these guys personally. I don't know Gerald Everett. You hear them talk about this. Matt Eberflus just got fired. And Chris Beatty in the press conference yesterday said, you know, I feel bad for him. I know these guys. That's part of the personal human side. But on the business side, this one to me, if I'm playing GM, this is a slam dunk. You absolutely cut Gerald Everett. You go look for a better tight end too, or draft one. You've saved $5.5 million. That's a lot of money when it comes to the tight end market. All right, one of the most intriguing to me here is the defensive line. Those who follow this channel know that I really want to focus on the defensive line this next year. So we're not focusing right behind where I am right here on the contracts that are going to be coming to an end there. You can see them. We'll be focusing on these ones more. Let me use my pointer. These ones more than the extension ones. You got two big extensions here. Oh, one big one. Montez Sweat signed his big extension. We're not doing anything with Montez. He's staying here. Then you got your rookies. Now, Jervon is a lock to stay for sure. Zach Pickens, in my opinion, that's not much to eat for a rookie that's really not working out. They'll probably want to work with him at least one more offseason. So either way, we're not focusing on that contract. Dom Robb, same thing. Last year I thought maybe we'd cut him because you're in these late round rookies, you're basically eating what's left of their contract. This isn't much. Austin Booker definitely won't be cut. He was last year's rookie. Then you got some practice squad players down here. And the free agents, I focused on them already before. We'll see what happens. ERFA, Daniel Hardy will probably be signed no matter what. So let's focus here on these two contracts. Because you got two contracts that are already signed. They're already in the middle of it, but they're coming near the end of them. And we need to analyze and look and see what they look like moving forward if they're worth keeping. So number one, DeMarcus Walker. And remember, as I look back at the other one, I view on this channel DeMarcus Walker as a backup defensive end, and I think he would be one of the best backups in the league in my opinion. His run game has really come along. His run defense, stopping the run, has become very important for us, and he's getting a lot more pressure than he has in some seasons as well. So we can take a look at his grades over here. His overall defensive grade, 69.7, which is actually really good. Really, really good. And you can see his run plays over here. He is missing more tackles than he should in run-only plays, but he's getting more pressure than he has in some seasons. We're not through this season yet, so that 28 total will go up. He's got 4 sacks last year, 8 the year before. That was his big year with Tennessee. And as we move into the end of his contract, he was 23, 24, and 25. So next year will be the last year of his contract. We look at it, and we can save $5.2 million out of the $5.9168 million. We'd only have to eat 2/3 of a million to cut him. But he's the 54th out of 120th ranked defensive end. And with a unit that's completely depleted at defensive end, defensive interior, having quality guys, he plays a unique role where he can go between defensive end and defensive interior, big-bodied guy who plays both roles really well. I would not cut him, even though the value there, you could save 5.2. It's not just how much you save and how much dead cap you have. He's the 54th ranked defensive end this year. And if you take that starting role off him and he can rotate in and be a rotational defensive end, you see on our depth chart, defensive end, defensive interior usually goes 2-3 deep because these guys rotate more than almost any other position in the league. In fact, without even thinking about that, probably the most of any position in the league. You've got defensive players on the defensive line rotating more than I would say anybody. Now, don't quote me. I might be misspeaking there because I'm forgetting some position, but that's why it's so deep. You have to have depth at defensive end, and you have to have quality depth with really good starters. Now, Jervon Dexter, we know about the offseason he had, putting his body in shape and working. He has truly become a 4-down back, 4-down lineman. So it's really nice to have that, but you have to have rotation and specializing in certain run plays, certain pass plays, getting the rush on teams. So I would not cut DeMarcus Walker, but I would work to bring somebody in the first round, second round to replace him. And if that rookie struggles, you have DeMarcus Walker that can step in like he has this year. But we need to find a blue chip defensive end for sure to be able to replace that. And then there's Big Bill. I know a lot of people have fallen in love. Sorry about that, guys. A lot of people have fallen in love with Big Bill. I like Big Bill. I'm not crapping on Big Bill at all. Look at his pass rush, though. This is why everybody's loving him, because he has become more of a disruptive force in the middle. But it's taken a toll having his tackling grades. He's not a good tackler. He's not a good stuffer. A lot of fans feel like he's good. We just haven't had great at the position for a while. It's been a while since Bears, half a decade, since the Bears have had really good up the middle. And that's what we need. So that's why we need a Mason Graham. That's why we need a Walter Nolan. That's why we need one of these defensive tackles in the first round and the second round that can really disrupt the run and get some pressure. These guys make a huge difference. And as much as we like Big Dex, he's not really a true 3-tech that disrupts the league like some of these guys. So it's important to analyze this. But Andrew Billings absolutely would be one of the best backup defensive tackles that the Bears have to consider. Maybe not best in the league, but to consider. We've got him for one more year, and $3.5 million for a defensive tackle is actually a steal. He's 52nd out of 138th ranked for defensive ends, or for defensive tackles. I'm a little bit big there. Defensive tackles in the league. His pass rush grade really excels, really does well. So if we have him as a backup and we can be able to have him come in on some pressure sets, some in situations where we need to get after the quarterback, might be good for there. He is big-bodied, but he's not really, his run defense has taken a hit this year. So do I cut him? No, not at $3.5 million. That's a steal of a contract for a backup, really solid defensive tackle. But that's where he belongs, is as a backup. All right, so Tremaine Edmunds is a tough decision for me. I think the Bears probably keep him, but that's a speculation thing. Save a lot more by cutting him next year if he's not working out. But for TJ Edwards, he's been one of the best linebackers for us this year. He's a thumper. I mean, when teams see him coming, they don't want to get hit by him. You can see he is a little bit down from last year. His pass rush and his coverage is a little bit what's taking the sacrifice. The entire coverage is not being called properly. We need defensive help, defensive coaching. We've got good personnel, but bad coaching on it. In my opinion, this is my opinion, the coaching is taking a hit this year. It's a sacrifice. But as far as dead cap, if we wanted to cut him, we'd only have $1.5 million in dead cap. We'd save $5.5, but you're not going to find a better linebacker than TJ Edwards for $5.5 million. There's no way you let go of this contract. In fact, he might be in for an extension depending on how he ends the rest of this year. They might do the same thing as Jalen Johnson and say, we want to see more out of you. We want to see you come back up to these types of years over here. We want to see you bring back up your first year with us and your years with Philadelphia. We want to see if you can bring that back up before we give you the extension. So we want to see more out of you. I can see that being exactly what happens, is a Jalen Johnson type of situation. So not much dead cap if we do cut him, but a lot of savings. But it's not really, you have to take the contract into consideration against other linebackers. And that's really, Tremaine Edmunds is a hefty contract. TJ Edwards is a value contract for sure. So I don't think there's any way they cut TJ Edwards after this year at all. All right, last section. I tell you, this is why I broke it into two video, guys. All right, so there's really only a couple to look at. Jaquan Brisker still on his rookie contract. Big questions there, though. Will he get back and be healthy? If you listen to him on Twitter, he's back on the grass. He's very excited. He's not eligible to come back from the IR yet, but very soon, a couple weeks from now. You've got the restricted free agents, unrestricted free agents, the earnings restricted free agents. So there's decisions to be made there. Here's the practice squad guys there, and then you've got rookie contracts here: Tyreek, Elijah Hicks, Terrell Smith, Jalen Johnson with the big extension, so we don't really need to analyze that one. And he actually still says, even after the blow up in the locker room, I'm still happy to be here, so that's good. You got Kevin Byard and Jonathan Owens that we really need to look at and determine if those contracts are worth continuing forward as we look at the salary cap. All right, Jonathan Owens is a fun one to play with because he's getting limited time, but now Elijah Hicks out this week. Jaquan Brisker not back. He should start again. He started last week, so his reps are very limited. You can see his run defense is off the chart, but it's limited sample size. But then his tackling, he's had some missed tackles. This is a classic case of low sample size, though. That's what this is. His coverage grade is low. His defensive grade is very high, though. So this is a player that you want to see how they continue through the rest of the year. He hasn't played enough snaps to be able to qualify, so he's unqualified as far as his ranking. But he would fall in, if you're looking at his defensive grade, he'd fall in somewhere between 21st and 22nd out of all ranked safeties. Again, limited sample size, but for his salary cap, he'd only have $375 dead cap. We'd save $2 million, but it's not. I mean, you're having him fill in. Excuse me. You're having him fill into a role right now as a starter, and you don't feel terrible about that. I actually am okay with Jonathan Owens filling in for Elijah Hicks and Jaquan Brisker while they're down, and that's the type of backup you want for $2 million, $4 million, even $5 million backup. So Jonathan Owens, no way I'm cutting him. This is the last year of his contract. In fact, you need to see how valuable he is these last couple of weeks to see if it's worth bringing him back on a similar type of extension. You can see it was a 2-year, $4.75 million contract. Maybe we bring him back on another 2-year. He's only 30 years old. So another 2-year, say $6 million contract. That's what you're going to learn by the end of this year and into next year for sure. And then last but certainly not least on all our contracts, you guys know I wanted Xavier McKinney. Now he's obviously playing well for the Packers, but Kevin Byard was a great option if we didn't get him. We wanted him to return to his 2021 form. Well, he's not far. I mean, he's not having a bad year at all. In fact, his pass rushing grade, which doesn't account for much for him at all, is off the charts. His coverage grade really, really good still. His tackling, his run defense, that's what he's known for, as a tackling safety, a thumper. So Kevin Byard keeping it up at age 32, 31. His contract is a little complicated because he's got dates built into it, so basically he can know what's going on. He gets extra bonuses set for certain dates. But if we decided to cut him, we would save $7 million off the cap. But for how he's playing, you don't want to cut Kevin Byard. This is a good contract still with how he's playing. You roll into next year with him, then you look forward from there. Maybe we address safety in the draft and develop one behind him. Right now, he's the 12th ranked out of 93 safeties in the NFL, who's having a very good year. He is not our problem when it comes to this defense and what they're getting away with and what they're giving up. His contract is a good contract for the Bears, so I would not cut Kevin Byard at all. So there's kind of a rundown of all the players, all the positions, where we stand. Some of the biggest ones are what I left on the main screen. Tremaine Edmonds, Gerald Everett, Ryan Bates, DeAndre Swift. Those are some of the biggest decisions to have to be made this upcoming year. Let me know after you've viewed that what you guys think, who you would want to keep, who you'd want to cut, who you'd want to, see. They can always adapt contracts too. They can restructure contracts. I don't know if that's something we can really get into on this because that's very, very speculative. But there are some big names to consider and big decisions that have to be made. And I think some of those, I think Ryan Bates is a no-brainer. Gerald Everett is a no-brainer. That saves us another $10 million in salary cap with those two alone. So I think that should happen. But I said the same thing for Larry Borum last year for a couple of, but I did say it about Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson too, and those two did happen. So this is the same type of decisions. We'll see what happens. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't hit the like button by now, please do so. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know why you haven't, but please do so. This is the type of stuff that I like to do. You'll see a lot more as we get to the off season. So this will be a good channel if you want to tune in and see that type of stuff. Decisions the team is making, salary cap, roster structure, where we move forward from here. So I do appreciate you guys. Please hit the like button for the algorithm, and please share it with your friends if you don't mind. Until next time, Dub Hairs and Bear Down.